Lawrence Jacobs, 382521.
And I see Mr. Jacobs, you're represented by counsel today. Counsel, please introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Josh Schwartz. I'm here to represent Lawrence Jacobs.
All right. And will you wrap it up for us at the end?
Yes, I will defer till the end.
Okay. And let me just acknowledge the folks who've joined us. We have the Parole Project, Mr. Myers, Shirley Poole, J.C. Johnson Jr., Lawrence Jacobs Sr., Annie Cole, Betty Jacobs, Yolanda Edwards, Larry Edwards, Zoe David Lane, Catherine Knight. There at the penitentiary, we have Tiffany T., Viola Williams, Lisa Latham, Billy Latham, Josh Schwartz. Oh, I got you, Mr. Schwartz, I'm sorry. Loretta Kendrick, Susan Johnson, Sydney Morton, and Jessica Williams. Thanks, everybody, for coming today. We have also here in opposition a representative from the DA's office in Jefferson, Mr. Randy Meyer, representing the victim, Sandra Mensman and Ward Mensman Jr. Bernita Softly with the Capitals Appeals Project is here. And we also have a victim advocate, Ms. Ann Lelowin. So anybody who has indicated they'd like to speak will be allowed to do so at the appropriate time. And let me just make a correction. I see Mr. Hunley here. He's representing the Parole Project this morning. We'll call on him at the appropriate time as well. First, Mr. Jacobs, I'm going to read some identifying information, ask you to confirm it, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Roche. Your case has been assigned to him this morning. He'll take the lead on the interview. So, Mr. Jacobs, you're classified as a first felony offender. You're currently serving a life sentence. You were sentenced in Jefferson Parish. For armed robbery, April 1st, 2003, you received a 25-year sentence. And then October 6, 2020, 2-count second-degree murder, life sentence on each, and those sentences are running consecutive. Is that information correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Roche. Please answer his questions.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Jacobs. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing, Mr. Roche?
Good, I'm fine. Thank you for asking. Mr. Jacobs, I'm gonna present some facts and then we'll have a conversation, okay?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Jacobs, you're currently 44 years old.
Excuse me?
You're currently 44 years old.
Yes, sir.
And what was the age at the time you committed this offense?
16.
16. So basically, you've been incarcerated for what, 27 years?
Yes, sir.
And you're first felony offender, and you classified as a juvenile life because you was convicted of this crime and sentenced to life without benefit, probation, and parole before the age of 18.
Yes, sir.
And what we're looking for today is a level of maturity and rehabilitation over the last 27 years. So let's get started. Tell us about the programs that you've completed in the last 27 years.
I have completed 100 hours. I have completed Thinking for a Change. I have completed substance abuse. I have completed victim awareness. I have completed, I have got a degree in culinary arts. I have certification in welding. I'm currently in the Bible college. We just finished our semester, so I may have one class left that I will continue to finish if this board grants me parole to get my bachelor's and associate degree in theology. I I have completed trauma healing. I have completed the Compassion Institute. I have completed,
It's a very long list, so
yes, sir.
we get the gist, and I just wanted to put into the record a few of the things that you've completed. Tell us about any community service that you performed in the last 10 or 15 years.
I have dealt with a marathon that we have annually here in Angola. I have been in the Life of Christ play. I've been at a drama club where we perform for the hospital, hospice programs. I have been in our Islamic community. We give back to the community here in Angola annually. I've been in a lot of different community affairs, talk with kids coming up here, but being with the drama club, the youth, basically just advocating and giving them my story so they don't follow in my footsteps. That's about it.
Tell us about any organizations that you participate in on a regular basis.
I'm in the Islamic community. I'm in JCs. I'm in, I deal with toy shop.
How long have you
I'm in
been,
the,
how long have you been working with the toy shop?
I've been working with the toy shop for the last like several years, like not in the, as far as making the toys, the bikes, but like I work for them as far as the concession for when visitation, we cook the breakfast for the visitors when they come up here, things like that.
Okay. Any Toastmasters?
And the pause program, I've been in the pause program.
Okay. That's a wonderful program. I think you prepare the dogs for the veterans and disabled.
Yes, sir.
Any Toastmaster?
No, sir. I had took JC speak up class before.
Tell us what level of trustee are you?
Right now, this Friday, I had just got recommended for trustee this last Friday. So I don't know if the process is finished yet, but I got recommended for C-class trustee this past
So-
Friday.
So you're not even a C-class trustee as of now.
As of now, no,
Okay.
just recommended.
What is your current job at Louisiana State Penitentiary?
I currently have two jobs. I'm a senior at the Bible College and I work at the hospital at night. Those are the two jobs that I hold.
What are you doing at the hospital at night?
I'm an orderly and I help out with the patients at nighttime in wards when they need help.
Okay, so you're on a night shift at the hospital?
Yes, sir.
Uh,
Yes, sir.
okay. And you mentioned culinary, any other vocational skills that you've obtained while incarcerated?
Welding, I have certification in NCER, welding. Those are two boat techs.
So let's talk about drugs and alcohol. Did drugs or alcohol play any part in this offense?
No, sir.
Have you ever used illegal drugs?
Yes, sir.
At what age did you start?
13,
And what did you start with?
marijuana.
Did you graduate to anything stronger?
No, sir. Unless you consider alcohol stronger.
No, I'm talking about marijuana, heroin,
Oh,
meth.
no, no, sir.
How long did you use marijuana?
up until I got incarcerated.
So for 3 years.
Yes, sir.
When's the last time you used marijuana?
Up until I got incarcerated, like right before I got incarcerated.
27 years you've been incarcerated, you never received a write-up for intoxication.
No, sir.
But tell us exactly why Lawrence Jacob is incarcerated today. What did you do?
October, first of all, I just wanna,
Sir, just answer my question.
yes, sir.
What did you do?
October 31st, 1996, I was a runaway living at 4012 North Dales. And I woke that morning with the intention to go rob, because I was trying to support myself. And I left that house, and my co-defendant, Roy Bridgewater, came out behind me, asked me where I was going. And I told him what I was going to do. He asked, could he come along with me? I said, yeah, you can come. So we went over to the next neighborhood, and we ran across a woman named Brenda Menard. She was outside her house. Our intentions were to rob her at first, but she kind of seen that, we was up to no good. So she kept her distance, and she was like really just asking us why we wasn't in school. And so I felt that she kind of knew that we was up to no good. So I told Roy, let's go. So once we started to leave, I felt she was gonna call the police. So I was going back to my friend's house. Upon us leaving the neighborhood, we seen Mr. Nelson Bowe by his van. And me and Roy agreed to go rob him. So we went up to him and we asked him the question about where a certain street was, using the street that we just came off that Brenda Menard was on. So once he turned and pointed to that street, we came up with our guns and asked him to step into the garage, and then ultimately to his house. We asked him, was anybody else in the house? He said his mother was in the kitchen. So I went and got his mother and brought her in the bedroom with him. And then Roy told me to go search the house for any valuables and electronics, things that we can sell. So he held them at gunpoint, and I went to ransack the house looking for things, valuables. So I accumulated the valuables and brought them into the bedroom. And then Roy said we had enough valuables, we need to use the van. So we asked Nelson where the keys was to the van. He said he dropped them outside when we put our guns out on him. So I went outside to search for the keys for the van, and I found them. I opened up the van door and began to load up the van. So once I loaded up the van with all the valuables, I went back into the house. I told Roy I'm about to get the phones they wouldn't call the police once we leave. Roy told me to go and start the van, that they wasn't gonna call the police. So I went to go start the van, but before I made it to the van, I heard the gunshots. So I ran and jumped in the van. I started the van, then Roy came running out the house, and he jumped in the van. And I went to back up out the yard, but I was so, nervous and shaken from what just happened. And I asked him, what happened? And he told me that they seen our face. And I just couldn't drive, so we switched seats. And at that time, right then and there, I just knew I was responsible for 2 people dying. And so he drove us to his house, and that's how the murder happened with Mr. Nelson and Miss Delabo.
So you weren't even in the house when it happened?
No, sir.
I'm gonna read you a statement that you made at the time you were arrested. This is your statement at the time you were arrested. And you were arrested on November 3rd. November 3rd of that year, right? A couple of days after.
Yes, sir.
Lawrence Jacobs Jr. arrived at the Detective Bureau with his father. Jacobs admitted being with Roy Bridgewater on the date of the homicides. He advised the intention was to go in and rob the victims. During the robbery, Bridgewater shot the victims because his face had been seen too much. The stolen property and weapons were found at Bridgewater's house. Later, on the same date, Bridgewater asked to speak to the officer. He admitted being with Jacobs on the morning of the murders, and he said they were in fact with the female early. He admitted seeing Nelson Bird near the garage of his home, but Jacobs went in to rob the man himself. Bridgewater claimed he left the scene. When talking to Jacobs later showed up at Bridgewater's house in the raid van. When questioning Jacobs again, he admitted to robbing the victims of the van, and later he admitted shooting them. Bridgewater stated he got into the van and drove across the bridge to New Orleans and disposed of the van. This report says that you admitted robbing the
Excuse me,
victim.
sir.
The report I'm reading is the actual police report where you admitted to the police in 1996 that you actually shot the victims.
No, sir.
Okay, so this report I have is
My
wrong.
lawyer will clarify, that wasn't, my statement, yeah.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
The full statement by Mr. Jacobs, I don't know if that's a transcription mistake switching the names, but the full statement from Mr. Jacobs in a police file, he only gave one statement to the police. Mr. Bridgewater gave 4 or 5 different statements. The full statement is entirely consistent with what he just told the board, at which point the statement ends and there was not another statement. I don't know if that's a switching of the names, but the full statement in the file, which I have, and I know Ms. Softly in Baton Rouge has, that was the full and only statement that Mr. Jacobs gave, and it was entirely consistent with what he told the board.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, Mr. Jacobs. Let's talk about your disciplinary conduct. How's your disciplinary conduct?
I haven't had a write-up in 2 years. My last write-up was an altered tablet in November.
Dealing with And
20
you're with a JPay system, right?
yes, sir.
Some fraudulent activity on a JPay,
Yes, sir.
which is a very serious offense.
Yes,
You
sir.
also had 17 or 18 other write-ups in the last 10 years. Very serious infractions, including aggravated sex offenses, contraband, and there were 3 or 4 write-ups involving with the JPEG fraud activity. You had unauthorized apps, and then you were selling your hardware online, which is a serious infraction of BOC rules.
Yes, sir.
I don't see the maturity of that. You have been incarcerated 25 years. And you were still committing infractions, serious infractions, while you were incarcerated. I would look for at least 3 to 5 years of write-up free. You've had 17 or 18 write-ups in the last 10 years. That doesn't show me the maturity and rehabilitation that I'm looking for. Now, I can go over your disciplinary record and you can give me some explanations on why such immature activity. In November 2021, you had an 18, a 30B, a 30X, and a 30G. And all this dealt with your JPEG iPad, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you received 10 days disciplinary and you were sent to lockdown. Which is an indication it was
Yes,
a,
sir. I plead guilty.
yeah, it was a very serious offense. And the same month, November 21, you had a contraband. What was the contraband?
That was the same, that was just the same write-up for two different, it was 2 different write-ups for the same offense.
Okay, but it was on 2 different days.
No, it was, yeah, 2 different days. Because once they found the tablet in the hobby shop, I didn't get locked up. It was supposed to have been a walk-in, but they came back few days later and wrote the same write-up as contraband to have me locked up. And when I went to court, they supposed to have throw the contraband out and found me. I pled guilty to the tablet. I had had it made. I had it altered during the time of the pandemic. And you're right, you're absolutely right. That was an immature move on my part. You know, regardless whether I just wanted to communicate with my family and friends during that time of the pandemic where everything was shut down, but there's no excuse. You're right, it was immature on my part, and that's why I pled guilty and owned up to it, accountability, and I just worked my way back into the good graces of my community and security because I knew I had messed up. You know, it was I had to work my way back as far as getting back in school and everything and working. So you're right.
Okay, Mr. Jacob, how about March 2021? Defiance, aggravated disobedience, and inappropriate behavior.
It's another offense where I shouldn't even happen. I took full responsibility for, I went back and forth with an officer about going to the hobby shop. And, you know, it's just something that I shouldn't have done.
But Mr. Jacobs, you've been incarcerated 25 years at that point, and you should have known better.
You're right. You're definitely right, sir. You're definitely right. You know, I'm not perfect, and you're absolutely right.
But it's far from perfect.
You're right.
October 20th, a 30W. What was the 30W about?
The 30W, that was dealing with a confidential informer said they heard me make a remark about an officer, and they felt like that I was going to assault her. And so security had me locked up based upon the assumption of whoever the confidential informants was.
And in 2018, you had a defiance and 2 aggravated disobedience. 2017, aggravated work offense. 2016, defiance. 2015, aggravated sex offense. It's a constant thing, and as I said before, Mr. Jacobs, I've been hearing juvenile lifers case since 2016. And I usually see those juvenile lifers, I see a clear disciplinary write-up record, at least 3 to 5, often 10 years. I see most of the write-ups in the first 10 years of their incarceration. When I see them at year 20, 22, 23, 24, I don't see any write-ups. I don't see that in your case. And it is concerning to me when I'm supposed to look for a level of maturity when a 40-year-old man is still committing very serious infractions that get him in lockdown. Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Rochelle. I don't see any other questions, so we'd like to hear the folks who want to speak in favor. And first, we'll hear from Mr. Hunley.
Andrew Hunley with Louisiana Parole Project, appearing today to confirm to the board that if Lawrence is granted parole, he has been accepted into our reentry program. We've been working with Lawrence for the last couple of years to prepare for his potential reentry. If he's granted parole, he will immediately come to our residential reentry program in Baton Rouge, where he will immediately undergo a substance abuse and mental health evaluation by a staff social worker, and he'll be expected to comply with all recommendations given by that staff social worker. He will also be assigned a peer mentor case manager, and during his first several weeks, he will go through life skills training, such as technological skills, financial management skills, communication skills, job seeking skills, and an array of other programming designed to assist people who've been incarcerated for a long period of time with their reentry. As this board is aware, our organization has done reentry for most of the juvenile lifers who've been released in Louisiana over the last several years, and we have an excellent success rate with juvenile lifers who have been given a second chance. Based on Lawrence's programming record and accomplishments since he's been incarcerated, is our organization's opinion that if he's given a second chance, he would have no problem completing the requirements of our program. And I'll stand by to answer any other questions you may have about his reentry. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Lawrence Jacobs Sr.
Good morning.
Lawrence.
How you doing, everybody?
Thank you.
My name is Lawrence Jacobs Senior. I'm Lawrence Jacobs, and And I'm here with my wife, Ms. Betty Jacobs, family and friends. And we are here to support his parole. And we're pretty excited about it, but myself, I kind of have mixed emotions because I know that once again, the whole family have to live through their tragedy once again. And I know that my family and Lawrence, especially Lawrence, we truly sorry about his involvement. And as you heard, he's taking ownership. He does not want me to sit up here and try to make excuses for him because he's taking total ownership for it. But I've seen him grow. I've seen him develop, and I've seen him mature. You know, while his time in prison. And he could have went the wrong way, different way, but I really think that it actually strengthened his resolve. I know, and I've just heard, you know, some of the different write-ups that I really wasn't aware of, but I do know that he's really been staying very positive. I've seen a lot of positive actions from him. I've seen him, how he takes on his religion. I embrace it. I've seen him learn new trades and new skills. You know, we heard about all the different programs that he went through. You know, about to name them, but he's already done that for us. And I've seen him really grow and be, you know, a really very positive. And our program, he still stayed positive. And he still thought about the future because he never knew that this particular day would come. And I can remember the time going to some of the rodeos where Angola allowed him to set up his plays of jewelry. And he done a very nice job making handmade jewelry. Actually, I'm wearing a piece right here today. And, you know, I'm standing next to him and I'm feeling like a very proud dad watching him communicate and his reaction with the general public. He was sitting out, you know, standing out there with the general public. And it was amazing. I was able to display his jewelry, talk to the customer, telling them what looks good on them, and also taking future orders from the customer who even have items that they wanted. So I'm here and I'm asking the board, pleading with you guys, I'm begging you guys, to give them an opportunity to enroll into the re-entry program right here in Baton Rouge, where he can go out in the public and found a job, found a career, or even start his own business where he can become financially stable. I'm also asking, this really was one of my requests, is that he go back into the community and he give back, help the young kids, you know, being a mentor, young kids that have lost their way. Be able to tell the story and help them get on the right track. I'm also asking the board as well to give them opportunity to go out and be able to attend church of his choice, where he can serve and praise God. I'm asking you guys because I know that if he released, he will really have something to praise God for. I praise God for that day. And I'm praying also that that day is today. And so I'm asking, just please give him opportunity to be the man that we raised him to be. He has the skills, he has certificates to go along with the skills. He also has the drive, he has the ambition. And to me, he has no other choice.
Yes,
He
sir.
has
Can you
me.
wrap it up for us, sir, Mr. Jacob?
Okay, he has me and his mom, to support him. He has his grandmother who's there with him, that's been visiting him ever since from day one. She's 80 years old. And so I just asked the board to just give him, an opportunity, his family is there to support him, whether it's moral, whether it's financial. And if you give him an opportunity, I'm sure he'll make us all proud.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And then from Angola, Ms. Tiffany T.
Yes, good morning. Do I need to sing?
You're good.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. My name is Tiffany Teague and I'm Lawrence's fiance. I first would like to start by just making it quick, giving honor to God first, because this is the day that he has made. And we're gonna rejoice, in this day and be glad. I definitely would like to thank the honorable board for giving Lawrence this opportunity. Like his dad stated, this was something that we didn't know of. We knew that he was eligible for parole at one point, but when it was gonna be, we did not know. And I definitely will not move forward without giving our deepest condolences to the Bowles family and the loss of their loved one, Miss Della Bowles and Mr. Nelson Bowles. And just quickly, what came to mind is 1 Corinthians 13, round about verse 11, 10 or 11. And it says that when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I acted as a child, and I thought as a child. But when I grew older, I threw away all the childish ways. And that says a lot about Lawrence. As we all know, he was 16 years old when this tragedy took place. It doesn't overshadow that 2 lives were lost, but it does show the level of maturity. And 27 years later, he has become an amazing, strong individual, positive, patient, and trustworthy. And lastly, I just want you all to know that I'm in support with his family. I stand fully behind him financially, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And one other thing about Lawrence is that when you come in contact with him and you meet him, he's a very positive person. He's always pushing you to be your best, to exceed, that the sky is the limit. And that's the type of person that our community needs. And out of the many and numerous thousands of conversations that we had, I remember one conversation that I have always stuck with and went by. And Lawrence told me, he says, what you have to remember in life, and if you don't remember anything else in life, you do have to know the do's and the don'ts of life. And that let me know that in his journey, that was the process that he had to go through in order to be the person that he is today. So lastly, I ask that you all would please consider granting parole. Some people say a second chance. I like to say a chance because again, he was 16 years old. And I really feel that he deserves the opportunity as a 44-year-old man to take his story, tell it, touch one, teach one, and be able to help someone else. And thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Warden Falco, is there anything you'd like to add?
I don't have anything to add, Mr. Nonsley.
Okay, thank you. So we'll hear now from opposition. If we could hear first from Ms. Sandra Mensman.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sandra Mensman. I was Nelson Bow's sister, and Della Bow was my mother. I am very strongly opposed to you getting out. I think that your parents said at the time you ran with the wrong crowd.
Yeah,
But
Ms.
you had a-
Excuse me, ma'am, I'm
No,
sorry
you're
to
talking to her.
direct your remarks to us, not to the,
Oh, okay. Okay.
thank you.
I'm strongly opposed to him being released. I think that he hasn't served the whole time. I was under the impression that he was supposed to serve like 2 consecutive years, 25 years for one murder and 25 years for the other one. So I don't think he served the whole time. And I've heard what he's done. I don't think that he should be released right now. I think he should stay in prison and not do something better for his life.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. And is that Mr. Ward with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, sir.
And I know they keep saying he was only 16, but if you check the records, he was only a few days off of being 17. When I was 17 years old, I was graduating from high school. had a choice of being bad or good. I chose good. And he had the same choice. He chose to go and rob people. And this wasn't his first stuff. He had a pretty good record before he even graduated to murder. So when the judge when the judge came up with the sentence, he said that he would have to serve his sentence for the other crimes that he had done before, and then start 2 life sentences, one behind the other, not grouping them all together like AT&T. He should have to serve 2 life sentences, not just one. They murdered people that won't come back. Well, I got.
Yes, sir. And thank you. Thank you both. We'll hear from the DA's office now, Mr. Meyer.
Good morning, Randy Meyer, Assistant DA in Jefferson Parish. I think looking at this record and listening to the questions that Mr. Roche went through, particularly with regard to his disciplinary record, I think it clearly shows that he hasn't reached the level of maturity that is mandated for him to be released. And if we first off listen to what Mr. Jacobs stated about the offense, he was going out to rob people. He got his gun and he was leaving to go rob people when Bridgewater came to him and said, "What you doing? Can I come? Yeah, come on with me." So, we can't throw everything on Mr. Bridgewater. Mr. Jacobs was doing what he was doing, which was committing violent offenses. As you heard, there's very strong victim opposition. But his disciplinary record is very, very concerning. It shows he had a significant number of offenses. He had 3 sex offenses after he was over 30 years old. Page 70, I believe it is, in the record that I have, shows he had 2 Schedule B violations in 2022, which that's not showing up on the conduct report. I don't know if that's an error or what that is, but it shows additional, he's continuing to get disciplinary reports. He's had disciplinary reports for pretty much every year of his incarceration up until either 2021 or 2022, depending on whether those are accurate or not. And, I would note too that a prior hearing was continued because of disciplinary reports. Most of the certificates that he has, the vast majority have been before 2017. I think he could continue to do more with regard of programming and to help him. Maybe additional anger management would be appropriate. Something to stop, to make him learn he's got to follow the rules and not continue with these horrible disciplinary reports that he's been obtaining. For those reasons, we're opposed to his request for parole.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Mr. Jacobs, before we turn it over to Mr. Schwartz, is there a statement you'd like to make?
Yes, ma'am. May I speak?
Yes.
First and foremost, I want to apologize to the entire Bowe family for one, having to relive these moments after having to say these details of the crime. I want to apologize for my actions, and I take full responsibility. I want to apologize to Stephanie Bowe and Brandon Bowe for being responsible for why their father and their grandmother is no longer here. I apologize because I know because of my actions, both of y'all lost the father and daughter moments and father and son moments. And, just not able to get those wise words from your grandmother. I'm sorry, I apologize. I'd like to apologize to Annette Bowe because of my actions, you no longer have your husband or your mother-in-law. You know, you had to be the glue of your family. You had to be mother and a father. You know, Miss Sandra, I apologize to you because of my actions. You lost your brother and your mother. You know, those precious times you could have with your mother, or those moments with your brother. It doesn't matter whether or not, if I ain't pulled the trigger or not, I'm still responsible. Just because I woke up with them ill intents to go harm somebody or rob somebody, if I would have never did that, your family would still be here. I want to apologize to my family for them having to just see that I just hadn't been associated and committing these crimes like this and bringing shame to our family name. I apologize to the citizens of Louisiana just for having to waste taxpayers' money for doing such a senseless act. And if this board sees it fit to grant me a second chance, it will not go wasted. You know, you're right, Mr. Roche, I definitely, you know, had some write-ups at the latter years. And the old me, I was self-destructed, but the mature me utilized those programs that I've learned throughout the course of my incarceration to not go backwards, just to keep moving forward and try to continue to do something positive. You know, even after that last write-up, I still got back refresher courses of thinking for a change, you know, to going through victim awareness, through the trauma healing, just trying to continue doing positive things if I don't continue to do wrong. You know, I'm not perfect. You're right, I'm far from it, but I try. I try to do right. I try to be positive. I try to work hand in hand with security here. I've been in programming. I done created programs. I done worked with children here, and you have to be in a certain standard to even do those things. You know, and the latter part, I'm not a trustee now, but I was between 2013 to 2017 B-class trustee before that last write-up of this hearing. The last hearing I was supposed to go off, you know, and I just got recommended again. So I work hard and I try hard, and Mr. Roche, I guarantee you, if you give me a second chance, you would not go wasted. I would continue to do the same things out there in society that I'm doing in here, working with at-risk youth, creating programs to work hand in hand with law enforcement, with my creative ways, the creative program and methods that I would like to use to bring the community, law enforcement, and the district attorney office together to try to help curb the youth, because I know what they're going through. I've been there. And that's the things that I
Jacobs,
want
can you
to
wrap
take the
it up
rest of
for
my
us,
life.
sir? Mr. Jacobs, can you wrap it up for us,
Yes,
sir?
ma'am. So I just appreciate y'all giving me this time and opportunity. And thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schwartz.
Thank you. Mr. Roche, I know you brought up disciplinary write-ups, and I'd like to start by addressing that. You know, I understand the board's concerns. I'll note that after his latest write-up in 2021, what Lawrence did is go back to the prison programming that he has so frequently availed himself of. He retook Thinking for a Change. He took a trauma healing class. He got back into the Bible college. He's working nights at the hospital. He went back and devoted himself to the programming to get himself on the right track. And I hope that that would give the board confidence. I'll also note that while it's certainly no excuse for the write-ups, he had a 2.5-year period before those write-ups where he was also write-up free. And 90% of his write-ups are over a decade old. He's not perfect, and he's the first one to say that. I think what sets Lawrence apart and what makes him exceptional is his devotion to the incredible programming that is offered at the Louisiana State Penitentiary. I mean, he has done over 50 programs during his time. And I know the board hears lots of statements of remorse. What I'd encourage the board to think about in determining whether Mr. Jacobs is authentic is look at what he was doing when no one was watching. He was still young, he was still maturing, he was still developing, but in 2008, he came off of pretrial lockdown and had access to programming for the very first time. He got his GED, his culinary arts degree, his welding certification, and did about 20 programs in the matter of 2 years. This is the very first time. He got his GED, his culinary arts degree, his welding certification, and did about 20 programs in the matter of 2 years. This is years before Miller and Montgomery. It's when he had a life without parole sentence, no hope of eventual release. And that's what he did years before anyone would be watching, and years before Miller and Montgomery would change the law. You know, DOC has considered him a low risk of recidivism for 5 years. You also have the extensive report from Dr. Kinshirf, who is an expert in this field, like the board, who is also an expert in this field, concurring with DOC's recommendations and assessment. You know, he was one of the few participants in the Life of Christ program. I know you talked about the PAUSE program. I spoke to Dr. Sharkey personally, and Mr. Jacobs would just have a few credits he could complete online were he to be released. I think what truly sets him apart is his devotion to the programming, and it's an example of the incredible power of the programming being offered here at LSP. I will just briefly comment on reentry. I know the board is very familiar with Parole Project, and I'll note that Mr. Jacobs would be set to do their rigorous employment enhancement program. In addition, he would be residing with Ms. Teague in Baton Rouge. Ms. Teague has 2 decades of experience in the medical field. He has an incredible family support. This is the family of, you know, professionals, realtors, teachers, federal investigators, medical professionals, and he knows he's lucky to have that support. And he also knows that it doesn't mean anything if he doesn't do right out there, which is why he wants to continue with substance abuse programming and anger management upon completion of Parole Project, if given that opportunity. And I'll close by saying this. You know, I was Lawrence's lawyer in 2019. That's how I was very familiar with the record, and I knew about, was able to clarify the issue with the statement earlier. And I was his lawyer during COVID, and he got COVID really early on when we still didn't know what was going on with it and how dangerous it was. It was a scary time. He was at Camp J with inmates from all around the state, and I could hear his shortness of breath. I talked to him almost every day. And I could also hear him put down the phone literally every 2 minutes to help someone. He volunteered to be a tier orderly during that time. No one asked him to do that. He was cleaning and scrubbing down Camp J and helping security staff to sanitize. He was helping guide all of these pretrial detainees from around the state who had been sent to Angola. And I think that says a lot about who he is and why this board can have confidence that if released out onto supervision through the Parole Project program, he will ultimately be successful. So we ask that you grant his parole, and he will abide by any and all restrictions that this board sees fit. We thank you for your time.
Thank you. We appreciate it. All right. This concludes this proceeding, and are we prepared to vote?
I move for executive session.
We have a motion for executive session
Second,
in a second. Could you do the roll call, please?
Carolyn Axel,
Yes.
Alan Roche,
yes,
Barb Jackson.
Yeah. So we'll be in executive session for a few. Okay, we are back in regular session. It's 10:10 a.m. and we are prepared to vote. Mr. Roche will be voting first.
thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Jacobs. The Supreme Court and all the lower district courts has set some guidelines that we have to follow. And like I said before, the first juvenile life case I heard was in 2016. And it's mandated that I look for a level of maturity and rehabilitation. All the psychiatrists and all the training that I've had over the last 8 years says that especially a male child does not mature until the ages of between 28 and 30 years old. It takes us a little longer to mature than our counterpart. But you have received multiple write-ups between the ages of 35 and 42. At which point I would expect you to mature to the point where you've been incarcerated for over 15, 20 years, and you knew the rules and you chose deliberately to violate those rules. The last write-up was a write-up of deception. You never thought you were going to get caught. You thought you manipulated that iPad to the point where you could use it for your personal benefit. It shows a lack of rehabilitation and a lack of maturity on your part. You have done very well while you're incarcerated. You've completed a tremendous amount of programs. You're on the brink of earning a BA degree in your last semester, but you still hadn't reached the point of maturity where I feel comfortable releasing you. So based on a lack of rehabilitation, based on a lack of maturity, the victim's family is adamantly opposed, law enforcement is opposed, and the Jefferson Parish DA's office is strongly opposed. I'm denying your request for early release. Before I finish, Madam Chairman, I would like to thank the victims for their participation in this hearing. And I want to impress on Mr. Jacobs, you have a loving family who supports you. It is about time that you realize that you have to do exactly as you should. Instead, write up for at least 3 to 5 years, and you've got to start on that. 3 to 5 years, when you're eligible again, reapply. But you must follow the rules and regulations and stop trying to manipulate the system as you did in 2021. Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. Mrs. Jackson. All right,
Mr. Jacobs, I would like to commend you for the positive things that you've done. You have accomplished a lot and you should be very proud of those accomplishments. However, I'm also concerned about your disciplinary conduct. I would have thought that this far into your incarceration and at the age that you were when these infractions occurred would not have happened had you, been more mature, if that's the right word, but it concerns me that your write-up, your disciplinary history, over the last 3 years has not been very good. I also believe that there's been insufficient time served, on this crime, given the fact that 2 people lost their lives, and even though you might not have been the actual shooter, you certainly put everything in motion, and you acknowledge that. And I do appreciate, though, I truly appreciate that you owned your responsibility in this case. And I appreciate that you have shown a recognition of the harm that you caused to the victims in this case. I believe that your expressions are sincere. But for me, today is not the day. I think your day will come. I encourage you to keep working hard and not get any other write-ups. But my vote today would be to deny.
Mrs. Jackson. And I do concur with my colleagues. It's concerning the disciplinary infractions and the nature of those infractions. So my vote today also is to deny. Strong encouragement, though. Don't get discouraged. Reapply. Stay and continue doing what you're doing. Reapply when you're eligible to do so. Good luck to you, sir.